For most of its history, this island had no roads. Not bad roads, none. If you wanted to reach the village at the top, you climbed. 800 steps cut by hand into the side of a volcano rising straight up from the water. Everything the island ever imported came up those steps on someone's shoulders or on the back of a donkey. Furniture, building materials, every single thing. Engineers looked at this place and gave their verdict. A road here was not possible. The slope was too steep, the rock too unstable, the island too small to be worth it. So a man who lived here, with no formal training, no degree, nothing, signed up for an engineering course that arrived through the mail. He studied it. And then he and his neighbors started cutting a road out of the cliffs with hand tools. It took them 25 years. When the first section was finished, there wasn't a single car on the island to drive on it. They had to wait 4 more years for one to arrive. This is Saba, 5 square miles of volcano in the Caribbean, 2,000 people, and almost nothing that wasn't dragged out of the rock by the people who live here. How anyone survives on a rock this small and this steep. How, with almost nothing, they built an entire world up here. To see it, you first have to get to Saba, which is its own kind of adventure. You cannot fly to Saba directly from very far away. Most people come first to St. Maarten, the busy, familiar hub of the northeastern Caribbean, and from there they board a tiny propeller plane for the short hop across the water, or take the ferry, fittingly named the Edge. And then comes one of the most famous landings in all of aviation. Saba's airport has the shortest commercial runway in the world, just 400 meters of tarmac, barely longer than the deck of some aircraft carriers, with sheer cliffs dropping into the sea on 3 sides and a hill closing off the 4th. Only a handful of pilots in the world are certified to land here, and they train specially to do it, dropping toward that stub of runway with cliffs on either side and stopping in a distance that seems to defy physics. Passengers tend to go very quiet on approach, and then burst into applause when the wheels finally stop. It is, in a way, the perfect welcome, because it tells you before you even step off the plane exactly what kind of place this is. Somewhere that simply refused to accept that it couldn't be reached. Saba rises out of the Caribbean like something that was pushed up in a hurry. It is a single volcano, only about 13 square kilometers of land, its slopes going almost straight from the waterline to the sky. At the top stands Mount Scenery, at roughly 887 meters, the highest point not just on the island, but in the entire Kingdom of the Netherlands. And it is very often wrapped in a soft collar of cloud, which is how Saba earned its nickname, the Island in the Clouds. To reach the summit, you climb again, this time more than 1,000 stone steps through the forest. And here is something that should not be possible on a speck of land this size. Saba holds 3 completely different ecosystems stacked on top of one another. Down low, there is dry forest and rugged coast, with tide pools carved into black volcanic rock. Higher up, the slopes turn green and lush, and at the very top, around the peak, sits a cool, dripping cloud forest, a miniature rainforest of gnarled, moss-draped elfin trees that feels like another country entirely. There are around 20 hiking trails threading through it all, lovingly maintained by the island's own conservation foundation. Because on Saba, the land is not a backdrop. It is treasured and tended like a garden. To walk from the coast to the summit, then, is to pass through what feels like 3 different countries in a single afternoon, from hot cactus-studded rock by the sea, up through warm green hillsides, and into the cold, silent, mist-hung forest at the top, where the trees are stunted and bent and every branch drips. Naturalists come a long way to see it, because this kind of variety packed into so little space is almost unheard of. The whole island is essentially one small mountain doing the work of a continent. The wildlife matches the strangeness. Isolation has done its slow work here too. Saba has its own iguana, a large, dark, almost black lizard, recently recognized as an endemic species found essentially nowhere else on Earth, which the islanders regard with a mix of pride and exasperation, since the handsome thing has a habit of raiding their carefully tended vegetable gardens. On a rock this cut off, even the lizards became something the rest of the world does not have. One thing you will not find much of here, though, is a beach. Unlike the rest of the Caribbean, Saba has almost no sand at all. Its edges are cliffs that fall straight into deep blue water. There are only 2 tiny exceptions, and the strangest is at Wells Bay, where a small black sand beach appears and then vanishes again with the shifting of the tides, there for a season and gone the next. On an island that made everything else by hand, even the one beach comes and goes as it pleases. If you have come to the Caribbean to lie on the sand, you have come to the wrong island. Saba offers something else entirely. To understand the people, you have to understand how alone this place once was. Before the road, before the airport, there was only the sea and the rock, and the single way up from the water was a staircase of some 800 steps carved by hand into the cliff, known simply as the ladder. Everything that came to Saba came up that staircase on human backs and the backs of donkeys, sacks of flour, timber, a church organ. When a piano was delivered, it was carried up those steps by a team of men. For centuries, this was daily life, an island where the price of every single object was the sweat of hauling it, step by step, up the side of a volcano. Ships could not simply dock either. There is no natural harbor on Saba, only rough water against rock. So for generations, even coming ashore meant a small boat riding the swell to a landing and then the long climb up. Goods, mail, newcomers, the sick and the dead, everything passed through that same narrow gauntlet of sea and stone. There is a half-forgotten monument to just how impossible that made ordinary things.
In the 1880s, a company tried to mine sulfur from the volcano's flanks and hired more than 100 Sabans to do it. But with no harbor to load the ore, they had to run it out on a cable strung 100 meters above the crashing waves to a tiny rock offshore where boats could reach it. The whole venture collapsed within about a year, beaten like so much here, not by a lack of effort, but by the sheer difficulty of getting anything on or off this island at all. To leave the island was hard. To reach it was harder. And to stay meant accepting that whatever you needed, you would very likely have to provide for yourself.
A place like that either breaks its people or it makes them extraordinarily self-reliant. Saba became the second kind.
When you cannot count on the outside world to bring you anything easily, you learn to make and mend and build and grow things yourselves. And you learn to lean hard on your neighbors because they are all you have. That habit, forged on the ladder over centuries, is the thread that runs through everything else on this island. And it is the reason that when the engineers said no, the Sabans heard something more like, "Not yet." Which brings us back to the road. By the 1930s, the Sabans were tired of the ladder, and they wanted a proper road connecting their villages. They asked the experts. Dutch and Swiss engineers studied the terrain and gave the same flat answer. It was impossible. The volcano was too steep and too unstable. No road could hold to those slopes. One islander refused to accept that. Josephus Lambert Hassel, a local man with no engineering background at all, enrolled in a civil engineering course delivered by mail, taught himself the mathematics of roads and grades and curves from books and lessons posted across the ocean, and decided he would build it. Work began in 1938, entirely by hand. There was no heavy machinery on the island, so the men of Saba cut and laid the road with hand tools, shovels, and wheelbarrows, pouring concrete on grades so severe that engineers had said they could never be paved. The first stretch opened in 1943. Bit by bit, village by village, the work went on, until in 1958, the road finally reached Hell's Gate, the highest village, tying the whole island together at last, roughly 14 kilometers of it, all by hand. What that took is hard to overstate. Not one heroic burst, but 20-odd years of ordinary people, farmers and fishermen and their sons, showing up day after day to move a mountain, a wheelbarrow at a time, guided by a neighbor who had learned engineering from envelopes in the mail. There was no company doing this, no foreign contractor. It was the island building itself a spine by hand, because no one else would. When cars finally did arrive, the story goes, there was barely any road ready for them. And when the road was ready, there was barely a car. The two had to wait for each other to catch up. Drive it today, and you feel the impossibility they conquered. There are no traffic lights on Saba, and no straight stretches to speak of. The road corkscrews up and down the mountain in tight, dizzying turns, clinging to slopes that still look like they should shrug it off. The descent toward Wells Bay is so steep, it feels like the drop of a roller coaster. Locals will joke that the single most important business on the island is the brake shop. It is a road that, by every expert opinion, should not exist, and the people who were told it couldn't be built drive it casually every single day. Water from the sky. The road was only the most visible thing the Sabans had to conjure for themselves. There was also the small matter of water.
Saba has no rivers, no springs, no natural source of fresh water at all. So for centuries, the island has drunk the sky. Nearly every house on Saba is built around a cistern, a covered tank that catches and stores rainwater off the roof, a practice the Dutch settlers established here as far back as the 1680s.
When the rains come, the cisterns fill. When a long dry spell hits, they can run low, and the whole island has to be careful with every drop. In recent years, the island has been building a proper drinking water plant to ease that pressure. And in emergencies, fresh water has even been shipped in and desalinated.
But the basic bargain remains what it has always been. On Saba, your water is whatever falls from the clouds, and whatever you had the foresight to save. Self-reliance here is not a slogan, it is plumbing.
It is worth sitting with that for a moment, because it is easy to romanticize a place like this. The truth is that living on Saba has always meant doing without things the rest of us take for granted. No fresh water in the ground, almost no flat land to farm. Nearly everything, from a bag of rice to a sheet of plywood, arriving by boat or by that tiny plane, and priced accordingly. The island's answer, over centuries, was never to wait for someone to fix it, but to adapt, to catch the rain, to build strong and small, to make what could be made and carefully bring in the rest, and to share. That is the quiet discipline underneath all the postcard beauty. So, who are the people who built all this? Around 2,000 of them live here, of mixed Dutch, English, and African descent, alongside a lively community of people who came from elsewhere and never left. Officially, this is a special municipality of the Netherlands, but the everyday language of the island is English, a legacy of its tangled history. The villages, with names like The Bottom, Windward Side, St. John's, and Hell's Gate, are almost impossibly tidy. By local custom and regulation, the traditional cottages are painted the same way: white walls, green shutters, and red roofs, so that from above, the settlements look like toys scattered across the green. The Bottom, despite its name, sits in a high volcanic bowl and serves as the island's little capital, home to the government offices and the medical school. Windward Side, perched higher up in the path of the trade winds, is the busiest of them, with most of the small hotels, restaurants, shops, and galleries, and Hell's Gate clings to the slope near the airport, the last village the road reached. Between them, the whole of Saba's population, every family, every business, every school, fits into a place you could walk across in an afternoon. And this is one of those rare places where the doors are seldom locked. Everyone knows everyone. Crime is so scarce, it barely registers. In a recent year, the entire island recorded fewer than 15 property crimes, the kind of number most towns manage in a weekend. There is no real reason to steal on an island where you would be recognized instantly and nowhere to run to afterward. Front gardens overflow with flowers. Neighbors keep an eye on one another's children and homes, and a stranger walking the road will be greeted without fail by nearly everyone they pass. People still stop to talk. Help is never far. For all its ruggedness, Saba is one of the gentlest, safest places you could ever set foot. It is also, quietly, more open-minded than its size might suggest. Back in 2012, this tiny, remote island became the first place in the Dutch Caribbean to marry same-sex couples. A small community, far from anywhere, simply deciding for itself what kind of place it wanted to be.
That, too, is very Saban. When the island makes up its mind about something, it does not much care what the wider world expects of it. An ordinary day here moves at the pace of the mountain. People walk or drive the winding road between the villages to the small shops, the school, the handful of restaurants and cafes. There is no rush hour to speak of, unless you count the one tight corner in Windward Side where the road narrows and a few cars sometimes have to wait for each other. Clouds slide over the peak, burn off, and gather again. Chickens wander. Gardens are tended. In the afternoons, hikers set out for the trails and divers head down to the water. And by evening, the whole island seems to gather on porches and in small bars, everyone catching up on a day that everyone else already mostly knows about. And threaded through all of it, surprisingly, are several hundred young medical students. Since 1992, the Bottom has been home to the Saba University School of Medicine, which draws around 300 students from abroad to study on this remote rock. They have quietly become one of the beating hearts of the island's economy and its daily life, filling the cafes of Windward Side, renting the rooms, bringing a jolt of youth to a place that once seemed to be fading away. Because Saba was fading, its population fell from around 2,500 at the start of the 20th century to roughly 1,000 by 1970, as young Sabans left for work in the United States, Curaçao, and the Netherlands. The road, the airport, the diving, and the medical school together pulled it back from the edge. It is a strange and rather wonderful thing to see, an island at the very edge of a country, kept alive in part by young doctors in training from all over the world, learning medicine on a volcano in the clouds. The mix gives Saba an unusual texture. Old island families whose roots go back centuries, living side by side with students who will be gone in a few years. And somehow it works, folded into the same tight, walkable, everyone knows everyone community. If there is one thing that defines this island, it is that the people here make things, not as a hobby, but as a way of life, and their crafts tell the whole story of Saba in miniature. Start with lace. Back in the 1870s, with the men away at sea for months on end, the women of Saba took up a delicate needlework they had learned, once called Spanish work, and made it entirely their own. When international mail reached the island, they began selling their lace by post to customers in the United States, running a thriving little export business from their front rooms. By the late 1920s, Saba lace was bringing in serious money each year. It is one more example of the island's genius. Told there was no economy to be had on a remote rock, the women of Saba simply stitched one by hand and mailed it to America. That making spirit is still everywhere. In Windward Side, a local glass artist runs a studio where visitors can sit down and, with a little guidance, learn to shape molten glass into beads and jewelry in a single afternoon. And small galleries around the village showcase the work of island painters and craftspeople. There are workshops now where you can try jewelry making, textiles, even crafts paired with cocktails. A whole tiny creative economy grown from the same instinct that built the road. If you want something on Saba, the surest way to get it is to learn to make it yourself. But the most Saban thing of all might be what comes out of people's kitchens.
Saba spice. It is a homemade spiced rum, brewed not in any factory, but in family homes, and nearly every family guards its own secret recipe. It is cooked slowly on the stove for hours with fennel, cinnamon, clove, brown sugar, and strong rum until the whole house fills with the smell of it. Islanders sip it after dinner over ice, mix it into cocktails, cook with it, even pour it over ice cream. You cannot buy real Saba spice in a shop abroad. To taste it, you more or less have to be welcomed into someone's home, which is exactly the point. The food tells the same story of a place making the most of what it has, and of two worlds meeting on one small rock. Because this is a Dutch island in the Caribbean, the kitchens here blend both. You will find Dutch bakeries turning out pastries and croquettes, and even kapsalon, a Dutch fast food invention of fries and meat and garlic sauce, served a few thousand kilometers from where it was dreamed up, right alongside Caribbean rice and peas and fresh-caught fish. There is even a homegrown vegetable found almost nowhere else, the Saban cabbage, a hardy green that took to the volcanic soil so completely that the island put it on its own coat of arms. And since 2023, Saba has had its first craft brewery, a handful of locals brewing beer on the island itself rather than shipping it in, one more small act of doing it themselves. And Saba's proudest dish comes from just offshore, the spiny lobster, a clawless Caribbean cousin of the northern lobster, hauled up from the rich waters of the Saba Bank. Many of the island's restaurants keep them alive in tanks, so you choose your own. And every November, the island holds a lobster fest in their honor, a small, whole community celebration of the one thing the sea gives them in abundance. It is, in the end, all of a piece. The lace, the glass, the rum, the cabbage, the beer, the lobster. This is a place that has always had to turn what little it has, a needle, a stove, a reef, a stubborn imagination, into a life. Nothing here is mass-produced. Almost everything is made quite literally by hand. Before we go on, a quick word. If you're enjoying this journey up the mountain, a like or a subscribe genuinely helps this channel keep making them. That's all it takes. Now, down we go, all the way down, because the most astonishing part of Saba isn't on the island at all. For all its drama above the surface, Saba may be even more extraordinary below it. The waters around the island are protected as the Saba National Marine Park, established back in 1987, and they are famous among divers as some of the healthiest and most pristine anywhere on Earth. The same volcanic forces that built the island underwater rose in great stone spires called pinnacles, mountains of lava that climb from the deep sea floor toward the light, but never quite break the surface. Divers descend along these towers through clouds of fish, past sheer walls and dark caves and thriving coral, in water so clear it can be disorienting, the seafloor falling away beneath them into blue. It was divers, in fact, who first put Saba on the modern map, arriving decades ago for these reefs and spreading the word about an island almost no one had heard of. Just offshore lies the Saba Bank, a vast submerged atoll stretching roughly 100 kilometers, one of the richest marine habitats in the entire Caribbean, a hidden underwater world larger than the island itself. It is home to sharks and turtles and great schools of fish, and to the island's prized spiny lobster. On an island with barely any beach, the sea is not for lounging. It is a wilderness and a livelihood and a wonder all at once. And Saba has been careful since 1987 to protect it rather than plunder it. Another quiet decision by a small island to look after what it has. None of this comes without risk, because Saba's greatest strength, its dramatic volcanic nature, is also its greatest danger. The volcano itself is dormant, sleeping rather than dead. The more immediate threat comes from the sky. In September 2017, Hurricane Irma, one of the most powerful Atlantic storms ever recorded, roared directly over this region, and it savaged the island. By some assessments, around 60% of Saba's natural vegetation was damaged or destroyed. And yet the island did what it always does. Its sturdy little cottages, built low and strong for exactly this, largely held. The community pulled together, cleared the roads, patched the roofs, and helped its neighbors. And Saba rebuilt. The forest, given time, began to come back too. But the warning was clear enough. As the climate warms and these storms grow fiercer and more frequent, a tiny, isolated island that depends on the outside world for so much. Most of its food, its fuel, its supplies, all of it arriving on that same small plane and ferry, knows exactly how exposed it is. A few bad days of weather can cut Saba off completely. There's a deeper fragility too. This is a community of only about 2,000 people, and it has come close to disappearing before. Through much of the 20th century, as life on the island stayed hard, the young left in a steady stream for the United States, for Curaçao, for the Netherlands, and the population drained away from around 2,500 down to roughly 1,000. What saved Saba was, once again, the things it built: the road, the airport, the diving, and the medical school, which together gave people reasons to stay and reasons to come. Being self-reliant has kept Saba alive for centuries. It has never made it safe. All of which explains why Saba feels so unlike the Caribbean most people picture. There are no sprawling resorts here, no cruise ships disgorging thousands of day trippers, no long golden beaches lined with bars. Saba never built any of that, and it is proud not to have. People call it the Unspoiled Queen, and they come for the opposite of the usual holiday: to hike 3 ecosystems in a single day, to dive those untouched pinnacles, to learn to shape glass or taste homemade rum in someone's kitchen, and above all, to slow down in a place where the doors don't lock and the pace is set by the clouds. The best time to visit is the dry season, from roughly December to April, safely outside the hurricane months that run through the second half of the year. And there is an honest tension in even making a video like this. Saba's whole charm is that so few people go. Its magic is fragile, and it could be loved to death like so many beautiful places before it. But the island has been careful, choosing small-scale, low-impact tourism over cruise ships and resorts, betting that a slower, gentler kind of visitor will help it survive without spoiling what makes it worth the trip. It is not an easy island to get to, and it is not trying to be. That difficulty is exactly what has kept it whole. So we come back to where we started. They were told the road couldn't be built, and they built it. They were told the runway was impossible, and they carved it out of a cliff. They were told there was no economy on a rock this small, and the women stitched one out of lace and sold it across an ocean. They had no fresh water, so they learned to drink the rain. Piece, by hand, together, the people of Saba made an entire world where the experts said none could exist. It is a small place, and a fragile one, exposed to the storms and dependent on a thin lifeline to the outside. And it would be wrong to pretend life here has ever been easy. Behind the flower gardens and the postcard cottages are centuries of doing without, of hauling and saving and making do. But that is exactly what makes Saba so quietly moving. This is not a paradise that was handed to anyone. It is a paradise that was built, deliberately, stubbornly, by ordinary people who kept being told it couldn't be done. Every meter of that road, every drop in every cistern, every stitch of that lace is somebody's answer to the word impossible. It may be one of the most quietly inspiring places on the planet, proof of what a few thousand determined people can make of a bare rock when they refuse to give up on it. So here is the question we'll leave you with. The next time the whole world lines up to tell you that something can't be done, that it's too hard, too steep, too small to be worth it, what will you do? Will you believe them? Or will you pick up a shovel like the people of Saba and start to build anyway? Tell us in the comments. We read them and we'd love to know. And if you'd like to keep discovering places that quietly defy the odds, the ones that never made the postcards, subscribe and we'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.